So I think this has been interesting for me in a few ways. So just to talk quickly about why I thought this might be an interesting thing to talk about. I've seen the Mexican Player series from Fender talked about in relation to the PRS Silver Sky SE. Now in the UK, actually the Mexican Player series comes in at about £300, less than the PRS Silver Sky, so that was why I was wondering why people are making that comparison. But in the US, they're pretty much exactly the same price. So anyway, over here, the choice is made probably a little bit easier because you can't even get a Silver Sky at the moment. SE, the Player, as I say, is like 300 quid less, which you could buy an amp with or something. But I'm going to do that video at some point when I get the Silver Sky SE in hand and see how it matches up with this. The other thing to say is that I think that Fender potentially, and the people that are marketing this, means something else than what I think most of us believe entry level to mean. Maybe they're saying that it's the entry level into the Fender range rather than your first guitar. So yeah, I think the consensus was in our comments, my comments, the comments on the video, that £500 to £600 is probably more like mid-price rather than a beginner guitar, and I think I'd agree with that. And I'd say this is probably like your second or third guitar, you know, for when you start to do things a little bit more seriously on the instrument. And if you wanted something that you could take to a gig, I think this, I have a feeling, would work quite nicely. Now, I compared it to the Sire S7 Vintage. That seemed to make sense. The most obvious thing to me is that the pickups in the Sire are hotter and have more bass. That's what I'm hearing. Let me know if you're hearing something different. The other thing that I've noticed, obviously, is that you've got locking tuners on the Sire, if that was a thing that you wanted, and rolled fretboard edges. Now, if you wanted that from the Fender range, you'd have to go up to the Player Plus if you were buying new. In hand, the neck on the Sire feels, you can't feel the frets because it's nicely rolled and it's just a nice fitting neck. On the Fender, it's pretty decent, but you can still feel the frets slightly. It's not sharp or anything though, so this is totally acceptable. In terms of comfort, I wouldn't say there's a massive amount in it. In terms of looks, of course, your Fender Strat, that's the iconic guitar, or you know, one of them. And I think aside from the Power Ferro, which can be a little bit dividing opinion-wise, you know, some people really don't like the way that looks. Some people don't mind it. I do think it has a tendency to look a little bit dry. Does lemon oil work with that? I don't know. But in many ways, I was expecting the Sire to totally blow the Fender Player out of the water, but I don't really think it does. I think they're both really decent guitars for the money. And then the other point is that people have been talking about these things like Jet guitars or Harley Benton guitars, which make these guitars look expensive even. I don't have any of those. I have an Ibanez AZ-ES. I'd say I think these feel a little bit of a step up in quality and playability than those. Given that they're twice the price, I'd sort of expect that. But yeah, I guess no need to make the video any longer than that. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this Fender. I didn't have expectations that it might, you know, stand up there with this. I'd think of the Sire as more of a super Strat still style than this. It's a bit more of a hot rodded Strat. You know, the first one had the humbucker in the bridge. This one still has the 2-point trem, same as this, and has the slightly different neck join, kind of ovalish shaped neck. And the hotter pickups, I think, sort of are what make me think of it more as like less of a vintage sounding instrument than the Fender. Whether or not you need those hotter output pickups is going to be completely up to you and down to your style, but both I think did a pretty good job. Both are holding their tune, both are pretty decent to play. You know, not the best guitars that I've ever played, but certainly I've gigged this one. I think I could gig this one happily as well. So yeah, get quite a lot of guitar for about £550. I think the Sire works out at the moment of being about £100 less than this in the UK, and all round I think feels slightly better in the hand as well. So I think maybe the Sire might be what I'd go for if I was given the option between the two, but it doesn't say Fender on the headstock and it doesn't look quite as pretty. That's my take on that. Let me know in the comments. I did see someone yesterday saying that they felt that their Sire completely blew their Fender Player out of the water, but I'm not sure that's the experience that I've had here. Both decent guitars for the money. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're interested in more non-sensational gear reviews like this. Cheers.